Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Selena Joan podcast. I am your host, Selena Joan, and today I'm talking about being selfish in the pursuit of authenticity. Now, if you are cringing at the word selfish, I ask that you stay tuned until the end of the podcast. I might just change your mind. So why am I bringing this up now? I'm bringing this up because I was recently watching a show on YouTube called Last Meals, and Gordon Ramsay was the guest on the show. And Gordon Ramsay said something that really sparked a fire in me, and he said, "You've got to get selfish." Why is this important to me? Because my entire life has been a battle for being authentic. When I was younger, when I obeyed my dad, we had a great relationship. But the older I got and the more I started to think for myself, form my own ideas, have my own things, our relationship started to deteriorate. It deteriorated to the point that my father legally gave up his rights to me in high school. So according to the law, I do not have a father. And my relationships after him were all with this sort of the same kind of people who had not stepped into their authenticity because they were not taught how to, because their parents didn't really know how to, because their parents didn't know, generational trauma. And so I ended up in these relationships with people who would try to make me feel small. I had a boyfriend, for example. We were in a store and I saw a game board that had a train on it, and instantly my mind thought of the Beatles song, "She's got a ticket to ride." And so I started singing the song, and it made my boyfriend at the time very uncomfortable, and he was like, "Can you please stop doing that? It's really embarrassing." And that stuck with me, and it still sticks with me, and I'm still learning how to ignore that or how to work with it. I don't quite know what to do with it yet. I think the best thing for me to do is to just let it go. And that's a difficult process, but that's why I'm making this podcast, right? It's something I've always wanted to do, and I'm not going to be held back anymore. It's why I have my YouTube channel. It's why I have my blog. I'm just doing what I want to do. I'm just being authentic. And I want to share this because I think there are so many brilliant people in this world with such awesome quirks about them, and they have brilliant ideas and they have brilliant dreams. And I think a lot of people don't end up doing those things or pursuing those things because they're surrounded by people who won't do it either. And so it's kind of like the crab theory, right? Where one crab tries to get out of the cage and the other crabs just drag it down and rip its legs off, some wild stuff. I don't know the name of the exact experiment or who the scientists were. I will find the information. I'll link it down in the description if you want to read it. But essentially that is what happens with people. And so I want to really push this narrative and encourage people to be authentic and be yourself. Hearing the word selfish, it can kind of make us shrink because a lot of us have been abandoned by people who decided that other things were more important than us. But as someone who's very conscious of the difficulty of being a human, I know that it's just never that simple. We've been taught to believe that making unwise choices makes us selfish. But unwise choices like cheating or stealing, these are self-destructive choices. They're narcissistic. And according to what I have read, narcissists actually can't stand themselves. They don't actually have love for themselves. That's why they're constantly seeking validation. So if you're not a narcissist, you have nothing to worry about in being selfish in the pursuit of authenticity. So what happens if we don't start choosing ourselves? Other people's idea of what is best for you is usually not what's best for your soul. Most of the time, when you hear parents giving their kids advice, like, go to college, get a good job, get good benefits, buy a house. Like, these choices are choices from one, a different generation, and two, they're not doing those things is not necessarily somebody living to their fullest potential. Now, that might be the best path for somebody, but that is not necessarily the best path for everybody. And everybody has the right to go within and decide what is best for them. Their idea of what your story should be is not your story, right? Because your story comes from within you. Choosing to follow the status quo, choosing to do what other people do because we think that it's gonna, give us that perfect life is a trap. It's a trap because it may seem good on the outside, but if you're not living from within, you are not living. Plain and simple. You're just not. You're existing and you're meeting other people's expectations and you're leaving your cup empty. I want to mention really briefly where the word selfish even comes from and what the word selfish actually means. So according to Google, selfish means self. And the descended common Germanic word ish means to belong to. So the word selfish literally means to belong to the self. So why should we be selfish? The freedom to be who you truly are in all aspects of your life, it sets your soul free. The mind can be a prison or it could be a playground. You have to be the guard who protects your inner child while your child plays. I truly believe that you don't have to grow up. I think what you have to do is you have to follow your heart and you have to make decisions that reflect what you really want so that you end up in situations that you really want to be in, right? So how many times have you heard somebody say, well, if I didn't have kids, I would be doing that, right? So at some point, somebody made a decision to do something that really wasn't in their best interest at the time. It really wasn't what they wanted to do. They just got lazy with themselves, or they were persuaded by somebody else or manipulated by somebody else. And I think this is what Gordon Ramsay means when you, obviously not in this direct term necessarily, but I think this is the essence of what he meant. You have to be selfish. You have to stand firmly in what you want and really go for it. You have to put on blinders, as he said on this episode. You have to put on blinders and say, fuck other people's expectations. So what happens when we respect ourselves? And this is the best part. This is the reason why I am doing this podcast. Because I realized something in my journey. I realized that when I truly respect my boundaries and my limitations, I inherently respect other people's boundaries and limitations. And I respect them because I know the work that it takes to keep those boundaries strong, right? People who are self-full or selfish, they respect themselves. Therefore, they respect other people. People who are selfish in the pursuit of authenticity, they do the work, therefore they respect the work. They respect the inner work that needs to get done to be the person that we want to be. What happens when we are patient and forgiving to ourselves? We offer the same peace to others with little to no hard feelings, right? Because we know how difficult it is to say no sometimes. We know that it's going to hurt the other person, and we care about that person, so it hurts us a little bit too. So when I hear somebody say, no, I don't want to do that. For example, I had a sleepover, and one of my friends was there and I wanted to watch a certain documentary, but the documentary was about something that was triggering for her. And she was like, hey, I really don't want to watch this. It's reminding me of something that I recently experienced. Can we watch something else? And I was so taken back by it because I'm not used to people just flat out saying what it is that they need in that moment, saying what it is that they're looking for, what their needs are. And it was honestly refreshing to know that the energy in the room was balanced because everybody's needs were being met. And if somebody needed something, they spoke up. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. What happens when we learn to see the beauty in our quote unquote flaws and imperfections? We gain the wisdom to see others' flaws and imperfections, quote unquote, not as flaws and imperfections, but as a part of the story, as a part of their story, as a part of who they are. It's a whole new lens in which to perceive others with love. To be selfish is to love the self. To love the ideas that come from our mind, to love wearing the clothes that excite us, to love eating the foods that we crave. The idea of being perfect or living a perfect life is not realistic. And it's not realistic because of the diversity of life. Somebody else's opinion about what a perfect life is has no domain over the ideology of what you believe to be a perfect life, right? I watched a podcast with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he mentioned that there are 100 billion people who ever lived. And he talked about if you want to figure out how many combinations of genes can make an authentic person, it is stupendously larger than the amount of people who have ever lived. That's over 100 billion combinations of genes to make you. You are special. Regardless of what the world thinks, regardless of the sad truths, the sad ideas of truth that they have accepted, it's a lie because you are special and you do have something to give this world that is so uniquely you, and I want to see it and the world wants to see it. And for all the people who don't want to see it, they can keep their eyes closed until they're ready. The world is never going to know just how special you are until you show it. That's going to do it for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will talk to you on the next one. Bye.